Seneferu Ingest. Seneferu Ingest is an application to be used for ingesting all the footage and materials you get from your shooting day to Seneferu project database, where Seneferu Ingest is going to use the naming convention that you used in the camera settings when you are shooting each shot take, and according to that ingest the files in the project database and give them the proper naming convention and give each take a version in the system, which is going to help the editors and the VFX team later for any kind of works that they are doing. And as you may already know, that everything in Seneferu pipeline has to come through Seneferu, so everything you are going to use in the project have to be published to the system. So the first thing we have to do to ingest any new material or footage is that after we open the Seneferu Ingest like this, you log in to your account. Make sure that you have permission to do that. Then switch to the project you want. Set the project shots complexity and set the status of the footage you are going to load. However, both these two things you can set them later according to the on per shot basis when you load the material you are going to do. And these are the naming conventions or prefixes that you have used when you set up your camera naming for the shots. Let's assume that these are the names that you use, but let's change, for example, the take to T. Then let's load some footage that we have for this test. Notice that you have a warning here that is telling you that this has bad naming, which will require that you fix this naming manually. And notice that the system automatically detected any stereoscopic shot left and right. Actually, this nothing of these files have left and right, but this is just a copy of shot 17 with these prefixes, just to show you how the system will detect left and right cameras during the publish and will put them in the subcontext, since this is how Seneferu deals with stereoscopic footage tasks. And now let's see or let's fix the process names for each one of the files that we have provided, and let's call this take 1 to fix that problem. On the other hand, if these scenes and shots were not created on the system in the project database during the project breakdown, as you may have seen before, then Seneferu Ingest is going to create the entries for the scenes and the shots before publishing all these footage and shots to them. And now, in regards to the process, what the process is, it is the task or the process per shot where these files are going to be published. It's just a task, as you may know about the any asset or shot or scene task context, where the context is the process and the subcontext. Both of them together are called context. For example, here, this is going to be published to a task called plate with subcontext L, and this will be published to a task called plate R, and so on. If there is no subcontext, then it will just be the task name, as in this case it will be plate. For example, here, this is a lens file that we are in this scene. All the shots were taken using a lens. This is lens information file that will be published to the scene survey footage context. If this lens belonging only to a shot, like it was for example, it's used for shot 1, you can say that this is scene footage SH, which is the prefix for the shots. But of course, I know that this is for scene, not for the whole scene, not only for one particular shot, so I will keep it survey footage. So the survey footage is any footage or survey data or information that you have on set, like for example the witness images that you take for the location, any images you take for HDRIs or anything like that in regards to the whole set or the whole scene. You need to publish it to or as survey footage. If you have multiple things that you need to publish, if you have two different types of lenses, or you have two different types of footage, like for example if you have footage for witness cameras or reference frames for the 3D tracking, and you have another sequence of footage you are taking for HDRIs, then you can use some subcontext to differentiate between the two. So let's say that this is, for example, let's look at some JPG folder. This is a folder, by the way, that has a list of files. So this is supposed to be footage. We can say that this is ref as subcontext. I mean by ref the reference frames, or witness. You can call it witness, or you can just keep it as it is, and you can call the other footage information as HDRI, so you can differentiate between the two types of the survey data. On the other hand, you need to set this and this accordingly, because all these are to be used. In this case, I don't want actually to, I have here scene 2 lens is a survey, and I have the survey footage which is a reference frames for tracking. I also call them, I also publish them to the same context survey footage, which is sufficient for this situation. There is no problem to do that. But if you have the two folders, or the two are having the same extension, and you are going to publish two different folders with the same extension, but as I said before, one folder has the HDRI's images that you are going to stitch or something, and the other one is having reference frames or witness cameras images or videos, then you need to use a different subcontext for each one of them. Otherwise the publish will fail, because in Seneferu you cannot publish two files of the same type to the same subcontext. Now, since all the files have been detected properly, if anything wrong, as I said before, you need to fix it here. For example, if one of the files has bad naming convention that doesn't follow these naming convention, then you will have to type the information of the scene and shot manually, and if any of the shots doesn't require this type of complexity, you can just set this to whatever, but for now I will keep all of them as this, since I know that the footage I'm publishing are all moving cameras, and they will have CG on live, then they are VFX, and since the camera is moving, then it's VFX with moving cam. The reason why there are two types of VFX, that is, when you select the complexity type of moving camera, this will let the system automatically create the required tracking tasks on each shot, which will save you time later. And for your information, when these files are published and the shot entries are created in the database, Seneferu is going to create all the tasks needed for the shots and will publish these files to the relevant tasks here, as you set here. So you will see that in more details later when we look at what happened when we published. Let's have a look actually before we publish. This is a totally new project that has nothing inside it, no scenes, no shots, nothing, just the initial clean project. So now let's delete these entries that by clicking delete. These entries are just there for I just made a copy just to show you how the application is detecting the stereoscopic extensions or left and right prefix, sorry. So I don't want to publish them actually. Then let's publish now. Before I start publishing, if you are publishing these materials from different country to the main mother company, or if you are publishing these materials to the cloud, if your project is hosted on the cloud, then you need to set this to remote. In that case, the file transfer and publish to Seneferu is going to happen via Pixar Tractor Queue, or it will happen through Sony OpenQ. So you can manage later the priority of the file transfer, especially that most probably you will be transferring huge amount of data in this process. But if you are publishing locally in a local location to the storage, then you can just keep this as local. Move files on publish checkbox tells the system that the files will be moved and renamed and ingested in the project database, and you don't want to keep copy of them in the temporary location where you have here. So this is by default checked. So if you don't want to do that, or if for any reason you want to keep this external version intact, then uncheck this, then the files will be copied during the publish rather than being moved. But I recommend using the move because there is no risk of doing that. And of course, when you are in remote publish, nothing is going to be moved because this is going to be file transfer via VPN tunnel, or depending how you configure the connection between your location and the mother company or the cloud. So let's publish now. This is just to confirm that you are going to move the files. Say yes here. Then the publish should start, and you will get the log both here and here, that where you will see that whatever is published will be marked in green. Any errors will show up in red. Any warnings will show up in orange in the view here. Let's have a look at what's happening now on the system during the publish. If we go to the scenes, you will notice that scene 1 is published and the survey information or survey footage data has been published to it, and you will notice also that the shots has been created and the footage is being published to the played task. This is the task where I was telling you that the footage will be published to. And these are the rest of the task, and as I told you before, because we said that these shots are VFX with moving cameras, then each one of them automatically had a tracking task for this purpose. This is the warning telling you that you are publishing take 3 for something that didn't have any takes before. So in that case, we have to fix that because the system now doesn't know what to do. Now we are waiting for the publish to finish. Then after that, we will have to fix these issues to publish the takes that had issues. Okay, now let's fix this problem. Because I know that I didn't publish anything to scene 2 shot 6 before, I will just delete. I will delete these. Oh, I deleted the whole entry actually. I will get it back. Okay, I will publish again. This will automatically publish only the entries that has issues, and it will keep the rest. This is actually nothing wrong, but I set this to republish in the time when this was already published successfully before, so the footage are not here because, as we said before, that the move is taking them out. The same applies for this, so don't worry about these two things. That was my mistake here when I was clicking on the entries. So now let's load the files which was this one, the one that I deleted. In that case, I will just fix this by removing this instead of deleting the whole entry as I did. Then I will publish. This should now publish the last entry only. And that's it. Now we have published all the files, or we ingested all the files to the system. So let's have a look at what happened now. Let's say that I will create editing task to myself. Let's say that this is, I will just force it to pending to make it visible in my project tasks. I will switch to this task. Now when you click on edit, you will notice in the dependencies of the edit that everything that you have published, all the plates that you have published are now dependencies for the editing task. So when you can review all of them by clicking on the review. I will not talk a lot about Seneferu Production Manager anyway, because this is beyond the scope of this tutorial, but this is just to let you know how this is going to have the editing will have all the plates and shots that you have published for the project as dependencies for the editing task. In that case, when the user set this to others, for example, to let's say that you are going to edit this in Nuke, or you want to edit this in any other editing software, not Nuke Studio, say DaVinci Resolve, then you can click on others, and when you click on load dependencies, these are going to give you the latest take from each shot that you can drag them to your timeline in your editing application, whatever it is. Or if this is Nuke Studio, then you will just do load dependencies, then the system will automatically load the plates and create a rough edit timeline from all the files that you have, or all the shots or plates that you have published. Anyway, all these things are beyond the scope of this tutorial. For more details about the Production Manager, please follow the Production Manager tutorials to know the features of the Production Managers and how to use these things. Notice that until now, the shots that were published doesn't have any frame range information, because these shots were created from scratch. They were never been there before. If the shot plates were previously created according to the storyboard edit or the animatics edit, then you will notice that the shots are having frame range. But because these shots are newly created according to the footage and material that we just published from Seneferu Ingest, so the shot doesn't have frame range. When you do the edit on these shots, the published edit will automatically set the usability of the shots and will set the frame range. For example, if one of the shots were not used in the edit, this shot will be disabled, and only the frame range that you have used from the shots that were there in the edit is going to be set here. Accordingly, this frame range will automatically guide the VFX users and team for the frame range to be used for the camera tracking or any kind of fluid simulation or visual effects that the users are going to do, including the comp or anything else. This anyway will happen automatically, but just for your information, that the shot frame ranges are going to be set after the publish of the editing. Then Seneferu will look at this XML that was generated during the edit to set the used frame range from each shot. So now, as you have noticed, that the system created the plates and the shot entries in the database. So in case if you watched already the initial project breakdown before, where we made the shooting tasks for scenes that didn't have shots information, now after ingesting the files or after ingesting the shooting footage and material, now the shots for these scenes have been created and the footage has been published to them. So now you may proceed with improving the project breakdown and linking and planning assets to these shots if anything requires something like that. And after this, you may also rerun the project planner to improve and reschedule the project after you have added more details to the project breakdown and after you have added more tasks and assets to the project. So that's it for now. If you didn't watch the Seneferu project breakdown and Seneferu project planner, you may watch them now, or if you have done that already, then as I was telling you, just you may proceed with the next phase, which is to improve and refine the breakdown and the project schedule and plan.